Do you ever feel like you're a little different? Do you ever feel like you don't quite fit in? Well, so do serial killers. You may be thinking, don't compare me to a serial killer, so I won't, but I will compare them to each other. There are multiple different kinds of serial killers: organized, disorganized, and mixed. On top of that, there's a bunch of motives for their killings, ranging from thinking that God told them to do it to killing for the media attention. As mentioned above, there's three different kinds of killers. First is killers. They have above average intelligence. Their crimes are often planned. They typically kidnap their victims. They are geographically mobile, which means that they have a comfort zone that they leave so that they have chances of getting caught. They go to great lengths to make sure their victims aren't discovered, which, as I mentioned before, is partially due because of their zone that they don't kill in. They may falsify suicide notes or frame others for their crimes. They are socially adequate, and they don't have a problem with superficial connections, which means that on the surface, they will seem like they're your friend. However, to them, it means absolutely nothing. Organized killers often lure with sympathy. Ted Bundy is a great example of this. He would often lure his victims with the ruse of a broken leg to get them to help him, and then he would kidnap them. Organized killers often return to the scene of the crime to see what the police know. They may contact the police or the media to get their fact out there and to get themselves known. They're very concerned with their outward appearance, so they may drive nicer cars, they may dress really nicely, and they're typically very clean. They may be loners, but if they are, it's completely by choice. They're more likely to dismember their victims, and they have a specific type where they'll stick to hair color or eye color or whatever. They're considered likable and are most likely to be described as by acquaintances as a nice guy. Examples of organized killers are John Wayne Gacy, Ted Bundy, who later regressed into a disorganized killer with the sorority house killings, and the BTK killer. Second, we have disorganized killers, who are basically the opposite of organized killers. They have a low intelligence. They don't have a specific type of victim. They don't really dispose of the body. They do blitz attacks, which makes them hard to cover because you never know when or who they're going to strike. They don't really bother covering their tracks. They're often socially inadequate. They may have a history of mental problems or be described by colleagues or family as eccentric or creepy. Disorganized are most likely to participate in necrophilia. They have poor hygiene. They may also return to the crime scene, but unlike organized killers, disorganized killers are returning to the crime scene strictly to relive their acts. They don't care about what the police know. They often have little insight to their crimes, and they may even block out what they have done. They aren't really concerned with staging, dismembering, or moving the body, and they may sometimes contact the victim's family in order to taunt them. Or disorganized killers often keep diaries and are most often high school dropouts. They're fascinated with self-help programs, and an example of this is Jeffrey Dahmer, who after becoming incarcerated became extremely interested in Christianity. They depersonalize their victims in order to see them as less than human so that they can commit these acts. They also leave footprints, fingerprints, and sometimes even the murder weapon at the scene. But despite this, they're difficult to catch because, as I mentioned before, they're extremely unpredictable. A good example of this, as mentioned before, is Jeffrey Dahmer. He had severe mental problems, and although he did have some organized characteristics, like luring victims to his house and dismembering them, the disorganized characteristics that he had were stronger than the organized ones. For example, the body parts that he had, he kept in his apartment. His neighbors actually smelled the body parts, but thought that it was just his horrendous cooking. Finally, we have mixed killers. This may involve more than one killer or unanticipated events. The victim may resist, or there may be some evidence of planning but poor concealment of the body. The crime scene is often in disarray, and there's often a lot of manual violence. An example of this is Richard Ramirez, also known as the Night Stalker. He brought a weapon with him and had a police scanner, which points to him being organized. However, he entered homes at random and decided in the spur of the moment whether or not he would kill his victims, which is disorganized. Finally, we have motives, which range from being a visionary to being mission-oriented to fulfilling hedonistic needs such as lust, thrill, or comfort and pain. They can also kill for power or control or for the media attention. No two people are exactly alike, and that goes for serial killers as well. While we may never fully understand these people, we can get a closer look at what makes them tick. And remember, if you smell something horrendous coming from your neighbor's apartment, you should probably just call the police.